Okay, so today I am going to show you how to make a really simple, cheap, easy, quick bread. I don't like all these breads that you have to leave proving overnight in the fridge and all that sort of thing. It's too much effort, and I don't think that the results are worth all the days of work that it comes with. Of course, if you're a bread artisan, that's your thing, but for me, I just want to be able to make a cheap loaf and just enjoy it. So with the 1940s experiment, which is the Wartime Recipes website, I found a really nice recipe for soda bread. It's really easy, it doesn't take long to make, and you put it straight in the oven for 40 minutes and your bread is done, and it's just so good. I'm making this today because I'm also making a pumpkin and parsnip soup from a pumpkin that I was gifted after Halloween last year, and they keep for ages. So I'm now making up my soup, which will do me for several dinners this week, and it's nice to have a nice bit of crusty, chunky bread to go with it. So I'm going to make this recipe. So all you need, this is a really simple recipe, all you need is strong brown flour. I always buy a Morrison's one. This one happens to be super cheap. You need 1 pound of flour. So you put that straight into your bowl. You also need 1 teaspoon of salt. I just give it a little bit of salt. Don't like too much salt. And you need 1 teaspoon of bicarb of soda, which just helps it rise a bit. So here we go, 1 teaspoon. There's a teaspoon, there we go. Okay. Now the other ingredient that you need is buttermilk. However, buttermilk is expensive. You don't often see it around, and I don't want to spend money on something that I'm only going to use once. You have 2 options. You can either use regular milk, and then you just need to add a teaspoon of cider vinegar, and you give it a good stir, leave it for 15 minutes, and that becomes a buttermilk alternative. The other thing you can do is use a plant-based milk, and you can just put that straight in. You don't need to do anything else with that. I'm using a plant-based milk today because I happen to have lots of that as my backup when I can't get real milk, and I haven't seen real milk on a yellow sticker deal for quite a while, so I'm going through my supplies of plant-based milk. I'm using one by Milkology, but they're all pretty much the same for this recipe. I haven't noticed a difference. So the first thing you need to do, I'm just going to mix in the salt and the bicarb. And then what you need to do is make a well in the middle of your flour. So you're making like a dip. And then you need to pour your milk into it. There it goes. And then you just need to start stirring. And you keep going until it's all blended in. It doesn't take very long. The flour quickly absorbs all your milk. Now this will still be quite a sticky recipe, and I don't know if it's the flour I use or whether I'm being too generous with the milk, but I always end up with something that's too soft to knead. So what I tend to do is just get some more flour and just put it in a handful at a time until I end up with something that I can handle. That was 1 handful. This is number 2. need another 3. It might also be because of the temperature is quite cold in here. So whether that has anything to do with it. So keep going. Let's move some of this out the way. I think I'll just need one more. Hey, I'll just end up with even more bread, which is fine. And this is also a good loaf for the freezer. So if you find you've made quite a lot, you can keep some out and put some in the freezer for another time, which I often do. And it's just as good, and it reheats well. And I often have it as a snack with crunchy peanut butter, especially when it's straight out the oven. It's so good. Okay, so I've ended up having to put about four extra handfuls of flour in there, but not to worry. You may find that you just want to put less milk in, and particularly if you're rationed in terms of how much milk you can buy or how much flour you want to use. You can just make those adjustments. You can also make a smaller loaf. So I very often make a £1/2 loaf. So I just divide all the ingredients by half and that's sorted. So it really depends on how much you need, what your storage is like, whether you have a freezer or not. You might not have the room. Yeah. So just make adjustments as and when you need to. You don't have to follow recipes to the letter. Nothing's going to come up and bite you. So I now have something that I can now turn out. So it's looking like that now. So now I need to flour where I'm going to do the kneading. And it doesn't require much kneading, but it needs a bit. So out we go. Get all the bits out. Don't waste any of it. There we go. And then you don't want to over knead this. You just need to ease in the rest of the flour until you get a nice solid consistency. And you'll just keep going with that. It's a very therapeutic thing to do, kneading bread. I don't often do it because, well, everything's on ration. I mean, flour's expensive, so I only have limited supplies because I only buy it on yellow sticker, so it's worth just holding off and not eating tons of the stuff anyway. So we're nearly there, a little bit more. There we go. Looking good. Don't waste any of the bits, because flour is an expensive ingredient these days. So make sure you've used all the flour. There we go. Turn it over, turn it into a round like this. Pop it onto your baking tray. And then you just need to just cut an X in the top. Just a little one. And help it rise. And just break the top. And then in the oven at about 200 degrees for 40 minutes. And that's it. Done. Simple, quick, cheap, easy. Because of the price of electric, as a lot of people are doing, I am batch cooking when I use the oven. So today I'm also making an apple and elderberry crumble, which will do me probably a week of evening desserts. So both of those will go into the oven at the same time, and I will cook those later today. And that's it. And I'll give you a little show later of what the bread looks like when it comes out. And that's the end. It's as simple as that. Test your bread as you're cooking. I tend to find that my oven tends to cook a little bit quicker than the recipe. that's on the sheet, and I'll add a link to that recipe down below once I've uploaded all of this. I mean, it says 45 minutes. I tend to find that 40 minutes is good for my oven. You might have a more up-to-date oven than I've got, and it might take less, but you should just stick a knife in, and then you can see if it comes out clean, then you know it's ready. So just work out your individual timings on that, and that's it. And now you have fabulous bread. So I'll show you the bread later when it's done, and give it a go and enjoy. Well, as I promised, here is the bread. It's come out a funny shape. I don't know why it's done that this time. It's still very hot, so I'm going to let it cool down for a bit. This is my fabulous soda bread loaf. Look at that. It looks amazing, and it's quite a big size, as you can tell. That's going to easily last me quite a while. That's very hot at the moment. Also, because running an oven is expensive, I have also made a crumble, a huge crumble. This is going to last me a week, I would say. And I'm also making a pumpkin and parsnip soup, which is why I made the bread. And I have toasted the pumpkin seeds, which I can use in various recipes. Waste not, want not. Everything has a use. So that's my batch cooking session done, and I'm looking forward to making the pumpkin soup later, and then I get to eat this amazing loaf. I love my homemade bread. You can't get anything like this in the shops. It's just amazing. So that's baking over for today.